biggest story in the league. Russell Crowe Live plus Wes Carr. Now, please welcome the team, led by their captain, Paul Thornton.
Welcome. And here we go again, eh? 15 years, who'd have thought? Love doing this show, it's a great job. As we welcome this year on our panel, Matthew Johns and Andrew Voss. Welcome, boys. Welcome, Chad. Great to see you.
Great to be back, Pat.
Big off-season, very disappointing finish to the off-season.
Yeah, we're going to tackle that shortly.
Yeah.
It has been disappointing without a doubt, but look, as you said, Fatty, a big season planned. I think we're going to see some spectacular football. Starts tomorrow night.
Andrew, welcome to the big league, champ. Up in the big league now, the footy show. Look at you go.
Thank you for having me. Look, it's exciting to be part of the program. It's an exciting time. It's a bit like Christmas Eve. We're 24 hours away from Christmas presents. The comp kicks off. And I share your frustration right at the top of the show. I am not a former player. I am a lifelong footy fan, like almost 100% of our viewing audience. And it does feel like the game's been hijacked. And that's what it feels like every single time. And I know we will address the big issue tonight, but there's still a lot to be happy with in rugby league. Just today, Benji Marshall, who will be on the show tonight, has re-signed with the Tigers for a further 2 years. So he's there for another 3 seasons, which is great news. And also today, the player who I believe will win the Dally M medal rightly this year, he was robbed of it last year because of a one-match suspension and some ridiculous laws in counting with the Dally M's. But Billy Slater has extended his contract through until the end of 2012. Yeah. And all this on the eve of a fabulous doubleheader tomorrow night. Yeah. Wayne Bennett's Dragons versus the Melbourne Storm and the Broncos versus the Cowboys. So there is still a lot of positives. We'll try and focus on them as well.
Yeah, we will do. Thanks, Andrew, and congratulations on joining the show at long last. And, of course, you can't have a great show like this without a fantastic sponsor. This year, a brand new sponsor, and that is Keno have jumped on board. There they are. You've got to love Keno. And the friends from Keno have joined us on the lounge up there. They'll be up there every night of every show during the week. We've got a massive comp involving Keno worth $1 million coming up later in the year. Stay tuned. Someone that can actually win $1 million courtesy of Keno. But right now, first show of the year, brand new segment. Matt Johns.
Brand new seggy, exciting, new seggy, and it's a nice little snappy one straight off the top. And it's going to be called Matt's Top 5. Very catchy name.
Oh, that's it. That's Top 5.
It took all the creative juices of the Channel 9 marketing department to come up with that. David Gingell rubber stamped it, and here we go. Now, the top 5 could be anything. You know, top 5 greatest English imports, greatest Dragons of all time, etc., etc. Kicking off a new season tonight, the top 5 players to watch in 2009. Let's rip into it. Okay, number 5 for mine is going to be Matty Orford. Look, Matty Orford, after early frustration 2008, it was a triumph for Matty Orford. If Manly are overcome these current challenges and go back-to-back, Orford needs to repeat his form of last September. 4, Roy Asotasi. Look, Souths are looking for a Roy Asotasi season like he had back in the Dogs. He was interrupted by injuries last year. If he fires, Souths will definitely make the 8. That's big Roy Asotasi, big season from him. Now, number 3, well, who else but Israel Folau. Look, Folau just gets bigger, faster, and he gets better. Look, he's going to become a legend at the Brisbane Broncos, and his centre partnership with Justin Hodges, look, it is clearly the best in World Rugby League. Number 2 player, Jonathan Thurston. Neil Henry, look, he just gets the best out of Thurston because he encourages him to play nice and straight. Look at that, that's his trademark, show and go. And look, the return this year of Matty Bowen, the little attacking wizard, makes the Cowboys a big title threat. So, number 1, here we go, Benji Marshall. Look, people thought we'd seen the best of Benji after a terrible run of injuries, but I tell you, last year in the World Cup, he showed us that the best is yet to come. We're going to see a lot of this stuff this year from Benj. So my number 1 player to watch in 2009. We're going to see him in the number 7 jersey for the Tigers, Benji Marshall.
You reckon?
I
You're
think
just
so.
sucking up. You're sucking up because he's coming on the show
He's
later,
and
aren't
he
you?
is on the show a little bit later. That's right. But no, I think the World Cup last year, I had my doubts about Benji as well. Like, with all these injuries, but he was just sensational. All he needs is a run of games. And in the 7 jersey too this year, big year for the Tigers.
All right, and Andrew Voss,
Well,
you've got a special little segment as well.
I want to just get a piece of the top 5 action, but I want to go a little bit different. And I won't make this. I won't make this a habit. But tonight, I just thought the top 5 moments from Grand Final day on. There's just a few things I wanted to revisit tonight. And number 5 was the New South Wales Cup Grand Final last year that went 104 minutes, just shy of the world record as far as a rugby league game is concerned, and 13 attempts at field goal. This one coming up from Justin Horrow, one of the worst ever. And in the 104th minute, Wentworthville beat Newtown. For me, that is a great moment. Steve Menzies' grand final night, the Cinderella story. He came back on, 20 seconds after he came back on, he scores this try, his 180th of his career. What a finish. Now, what about the Harkers at the World Cup? This was at the final, and the Kangaroos got in the face of the Kiwis. I reckon this was the highlight of the World Cup. This is great sporting theatre. I cannot wait until the next time Australia play New Zealand, and it is going to happen, and you will see it on Nine's Wide World of Sports. Now, over the summer, the cricket, Dave Warner, where did this kid come from? 89 off 43 deliveries, a 50 off 19 balls in the first 2020 match against South Africa. To me, that's great sporting theatre. That's great sporting action. Let's see more of it. And finally, if you think you have a bad moment on the punt this year, what about this from Taunton in the UK? This horse, Topless, is leading the race, and this jockey, James Davis, they reckon he fell off. And they took no action. So if you get gutted on the punt this year, there is always someone worse off. And the someone worse off in this instant was who batted.
I like a
backed
bet.
that.
I was actually on that horse. It was unbelievable. Just another way to do your cash.
That was staggering.
It could have been Stewart's inquiry.
Oh, please. Stewart's inquiry. Get barred for life, that bloke. Now, I know that in the off-season that you did nothing. You just relaxed and went
Absolutely.
to the beach.
Yep, that's right.
I didn't stop working.
No,
seriously?
really? You love it?
Now, the next week, the footy show will be a James Bond special. Everyone decked out in the black and the white and all that sort of stuff. And, Bond, James Bond, it's all that. Now, I went to London last week because Quantum of Solace, the latest movie from James Bond, is being released on DVD on the 18th of March, and we've got a big James Bond special next week. I've been to London to see if I could maybe be the next James Bond. Let's have a look.
Please.
Bond, Paddy Bond. Let's go.
In its entirety next week. And we're launching a big Quantum of Solace competition next week on the show as well. I got to speak to the director. I got to speak to the beautiful actress Olga, someone who played a part. She was fantastic, and we'll see that all next week.
A red-headed James Bond.
Yeah, I reckon.
You reckon that's a chance?
I think there's a place for
redhead
it, and I think it could be me.
Well, that's the end of the James Bond series. It's gone for 40 years, and that's it.
In fact, Olga's Russian. To start the year, give us a.
Get down, get back to the chopper. I was saving that for Russell, mate. I might drop it again, just for Russ. All right, time to get serious on the show. Of course, amazing scenes once again in rugby league, and not very good. We are joined right now by leading Sydney Morning Herald journalist Jacqueline Magnay, who's been in the game for 20 years. She joins. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Jacqueline, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, you've been at the coalface of this whole story from day one. Are there any last-minute things that have happened today that we should know?
Well, I suppose it's been the only glimmer of good news for Brett Stewart in that the DNA analysis has come back and it's inconclusive. So this doesn't clear Brett Stewart in any way, but it doesn't strengthen the police case against him. So he would be feeling a little bit relieved, I would say, today.
Okay.
We've also got the Manly Club saying that they are going to take action against Anthony Watmo. for the incident that happened at the season launch last Friday, but they're not going to tell us what it is. It's going to be kept in-house.
That might be in the terms of a fine or maybe a suspension. We'll have
I
to
would
wait and
suggest
see.
it's a fine.
All right then. You've been around rugby league a long time. What are we doing to ourselves? Can you believe it?
Well, it seems that the week before the season kicks off every year that this is what happens, this is what we're talking about, and it appears that we are not really learning from what has happened in the past. And it is very sad to see what's happened. And there's been suggestions of having an alcohol ban, of having curfews on players, fining players more. I think it was a really good step that the league took this week that David Gallop imposed a fine on the club, because they've said, OK, this type of behaviour is not acceptable. But they've also sent a clear message about the behaviour of Brett Stewart as well.
All right. OK, and the man who made that tough decision, David Gallop, our Chief Executive, he's been in that job for 8 years, done a pretty good job over that time, joins us right now. David Gallop. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. When do you think players will learn?
Yeah, look, I've said for some time, it's unrealistic to think that we'll never have an incident. Binge drinking is a big issue in the community. Our guys have relatively limited opportunities to drink. So when they do, there's a high risk that they can get themselves in trouble. So we are going to have incidents from time to time. It's important that when we do, those incidents are dealt with appropriately. It's important that we continue to educate our players about the pitfalls of binge drinking.
When this happens though, David, you're talking about the clubs handing down the penalty, yet it's in the club's interest to have the player on the field. Manly want Brett Stewart to play, and then you're forced to come in over the top. What about Matt Robble's idea of having an independent tribunal to deal with off-field issues?
I guess we've seen this week that we bring some independence to these situations if it's necessary. We're big believers that clubs need to set their own standards. They need to penalise players if they get themselves in trouble. They need to send a message through their own playing roster of what they see as their standard in their club. So certainly we give clubs the first opportunity to act in most of these situations.
We've had inconsistencies though. I mean, we look at Darren Lockyer last year where Wayne Bennett laughed off his tackle on in a barroom incident. I mean, he was a test captain at the time. Is that a situation where perhaps now the league might step in if that had happened, in the last week?
Yeah, the power's always been there, and we've used it from time to time. One thing we do also say is that we can hold clubs liable in the event that individuals in their organisation find themselves embarrassing the game. And certainly part of what we did yesterday was to fine Manly $100,000 because the season launch that they held, by their own admission, the drinking at that function was unacceptable.
David, just rehash some stuff. A lot of fans are still asking that why was Brett Stewart sat out of the game 5 weeks, 4 games, where other players have been charged, as Anthony LaFranchi, and allowed to continue to play?
Yeah. Importantly, the conduct that led to Brett Stewart being suspended was the conduct that happened before any alleged sexual assault.
Okay. So David, if let's say, for instance, Brett would have hopped in the taxi at Manly and went home and there was no alleged incident, from what went on at Manly, he would still be copping the 5 weeks.
Let's go back to last Wednesday night. We launched our season, probably the best received commercial that we've had for a few years, best received season launch. We chose a guy to do that for us as the face of our game. 2 days later, he was refused service after a season launch.
So this is
he was asked to leave.
Yep.
That is inappropriate behaviour from a guy who was given the honour of launching our season.
But I think it's a good point that Matty's making, that it's been based on 4 weeks as a not, because that is when the court appearance is. It seems to me that the policy is a little haphazard. I mean, if Brett Stewart's court hearing was 6 weeks away, you telling me that he would have been suspended for 6? If it was a fortnight away, would he have been added for 2 weeks?
No, it's a mere coincidence. We thought that 4 weeks was appropriate. It may well be that more information comes to light in the next 4 weeks, not necessarily in relation to his next court appearance. But can I just answer your question about a player like Anthony LaFranchi? obviously our wish is that we never have players charged or convicted of serious offences. It's very difficult to have a hard and fast rule when that happens. Sometimes the facts will be in dispute. And in those situations, it's right that the police and the courts deal with those matters.
Yep.
On other occasions, we've had players charged with criminal offences where the facts haven't been in dispute. Cronulla player, Latu, sacked within hours of being charged because there was no dispute about what had happened. But where there's a dispute, as there was in Lafranchi's case, and he was ultimately acquitted of the charge, it's very important that we let the court process run, and that's what we'll do with Brett Stewart.
When Origin, is this a new line in the sand? As far you mentioned the profile of Brett Stewart, is this a new line in the sand as far as no tolerance with our highest profile players, David?
He certainly let the game down because of the honour that had been placed on him to be the face of the game, and certainly that weekend, as Jacqueline said. That's a weekend when no one needed any reminding that the game's got in trouble before, and everyone needed to make sure they kept their nose clean on that weekend. Add to that the player who'd been chosen, and I think the penalty was appropriate.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a Manly man, Manly as they come, but I applaud your decision to do what you did, to stand Brett Stewart down, and the decision by Manly to try and make Brett Stewart play was just ridiculous and totally out of order. I mean, there's no winners in this. There's two massive losers, the young lady and Brett Stewart. Now, how could Brett Stewart be in any fit state to go out to ANZ Stadium on Saturday night and give his best in a regular? How could he?
His own dad said that he was in a very fragile state.
Absolutely. To try and make him play was just a really poor decision.
I tell you what, boys,
and I think you've done the right thing by him as well.
I'd be surprised if Glenn runs out, knowing how tight they are. You know, it would surprise me to see Glenn Stewart play. Even.
Well, I got information that when at the police headquarters, that when he was told he was being charged, that Brett collapsed. I mean, that's how bad it was. So, I
think it's well documented that I questioned Manly's decision, and that was very much about whether it was in the players' best
but in
interest
hindsight,
to run
David,
out
would
on
it
the
be
ground
better
on
if
Saturday.
Would it be better if the NRL was more proactive and actually took the action on Monday, that took it out of the club's hands and basically said, well, look, you cannot pick him, rather than go through another 2 or 3 days of it and back page and front page headlines, Manly snub their nose at the league and say they are going to pick him? Would it be better if the league, if the policy is so clear-cut that Brett Stewart's situation was no different than the league?
As I said, I think it's entirely appropriate that the club, as the employer of the player, gets an opportunity to look at the situation first. They had a meeting that went for many hours. They obviously grappled with the issue, and they came to the decision that they did, which I didn't agree with.
David, on a broader issue, what are you going to do as the head of the NRL to try and stop these happening? I know that you've got a really highly respected program in place to train these players how to deal with women. I mean, what's the next step? More women to be involved in the code? Do you see that as a step forward?
Look, we have put in place education programs, and they've been aided. We've been aided by experts, people like Catherine Lumby, people like Wendy McCarthy, people like Karen Willis from the Rape Crisis Centre. Those courses are run across all our clubs. They look at attitudes towards women. They look at issues of consent, and they are very well received. Certainly, we've got to continue to have those education sessions in place, not only for senior players but for junior players. And if we find ourselves in a situation, as I said earlier on the weekend, if it is clearly established fact that a player has committed sexual assault, then he won't be playing.
All right, just back to Brett Stewart for a minute. Just by chance, at the launch last Friday, the Footy Show had some cameras. We were doing an interview with Brett Stewart to talk to him about the year ahead and just what it was like to be a role model in rugby league.
No, it's all right. I suppose I get recognised a little bit more in Manly than anywhere else. The Manly Daily don't have a real lot of sport around here besides us. But sort of that comes with the job, you know, the reputation and that sort of thing.
Is it part of your role as a professional footballer to promote the game and bring people through the gates?
I think so. I think that's probably responsibility of every player. You know, if you can keep people coming back to the game, then we're in pretty good hands.
And is there a downside to all of this fame and fortune then, Brett, as far as play behaviour goes? Do you feel like you're under more scrutiny these days?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, a lot more. Yeah, I suppose we haven't helped our matters. You know, some blokes getting in trouble or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. What do you do? Yeah.
And I guess you also have that responsibility to the game itself too, don't you? Is that something you're very conscious of?
Yeah, I am. I think most players are. Like you said, we're under a fair bit of scrutiny. I think you just got to be aware of it when you're going out and just know that you're always being watched.
Yeah, some pretty pertinent look, yeah, exactly. The audience reaction, there's some very pertinent statements in that. Responsibility of every player, re-representing the game. And then the last thing, you are being watched. It's almost as if, the penny isn't dropping. The players say, don't treat us like babies. We should be able to go out and have a drink. We are adults. But it's almost as if we have to have something in place that protects them from getting into this position. And I always remember Shane Webke saying it as one bold statement that stands out. He says a code of conduct is crap. You know what's right and wrong. And I think that's true. But for those who can't see that, they need to be protected from themselves.
Vossi,
it's that simple.
I'll tell you how, mate, at the beginning of my career, I tell you what used to happen on Tuesday, Thursday nights, and Fatty will back this up. There was the old, go back to the pub and have a couple of beers. The clubs don't want that, understandably so. It's elite athletes. Players these days, what happens a little bit, abstain from drink sometimes for 6 weeks. They breathalyse the player, which is a good move, trying to be as professional as possible. Then all of a sudden what happens, you get a split round or a weekend off and they say, OK, you've been good, results are good, go and enjoy yourselves.
Well,
and that's what happens. That's the issue. The issue isn't about prohibition, and it's not so much about the drinking, it's the binge drinking, as Jacqueline said from the top. That's the hardest thing to change. And you're saying, why are they doing it?
But those who push an alcohol ban, Matty, would the game be in better or worse shape if there was an alcohol ban? I don't know how you impose it.
Well, how do you... Roosevelt couldn't impose it. All you're going to do is you turn David Gallup into Elliot Ness.
But if the only I just have the opinion, and I'm not for what Gus Gould says, total alcohol ban, but I think, if the only sacrifice you have to make to be a professional footballer, I would have loved to have been a professional footy player. Not good enough. Most of us here would have loved to have been. We're not good enough. But if the only sacrifice you have to make is abstain from alcohol, is that such a sacrifice? To get all the trimmings of being a pro footballer?
The bottom line is, would putting prohibition in, if it came, would that take on a life
I'm
of
not
its
saying
own?
prohibition. I'm putting it on the players that you abstain, that you make that decision to be a pro athlete, to be a professional footballer. I will not drink.
Well, most footballers don't drink. Not good for them as an athlete to recover the next day and put their body through all the rigours of training. So you're right. Matty, they don't drink. And it is the binge drinking. But should alcohol be available all the time for them? And they learn their own limits.
The great shame of this is we had our community carnival a couple of weeks ago. 100 players out in remote areas. The feedback was fantastic. Our guys are doing so much good stuff in the community. 15,000 hours of community work last year. It is such a shame when something like this spoils all the good work.
Yep. Well, it's purely and simply about common sense, isn't it? When you've had enough, and you go home. That's what I used to do. I'd get up to here and then I'm going. I used to bring the bride and say, I want you there at 10. I'll have had 30 schooners, pick me up. Home I'd go. No more.
And I imagine you get the page of Manly Leafs, and say, she's here already?
Not quite. All right, now, plenty of people had plenty to say about this subject, including 2GB's commentator Ray Hadley, who Phil Gould caught up with during the week.
Well, Ray, again, the season start has been hijacked by headlines of player misbehaviour. Have we reached breaking point? I mean, how many more headlines like this can rugby league withstand?
Not many. It's been resilient, as you and I both know, over the past 20 years. But it has just about reached breaking point. That's why I supported your call for a total ban on alcohol. It looks like we might be a voice in the wilderness, but they really have to draw a line in the sand somewhere and do it soon.
You deal with the general public every day on Talkback Radio. I mean, what's the fans saying about this latest bout?
They've had a gutful, and even Manly supporters have had a gutful. And we're not talking about, in this case, the sexual assault. That's a separate issue which will dealt with by the courts. We're talking about drinking. The fact that I revealed earlier this week that at the board meeting Manly had about the future of the club and drinking and irresponsible drinking at launch, one of the board members was actually drunk in the boardroom while they were discussing the future of the club. Alcohol's obviously a problem in the game and has to be addressed. Now, you've got on one hand the fact they sponsor and put a lot of money into the game. that all the clubs are backed by leagues clubs which sell alcohol in the main. So, we really have a sort of tightrope to walk, but we've got to do something about it.
Every time we get an incident like this, we get the psychologist saying, it's all about education, we've got to get the kids in and talk to them. And there's the other people who say, look, we need to wield a big stick. Has it come time for the big stick on the whole culture of the game?
Well, I think that the psychology hasn't worked. I think that, and to a certain extent, I don't know if the big stick has worked either. We've got Todd Carney playing in North Queensland for a pub team, which is contradiction in terms to start with. What he's doing at a pub team, I had no idea. Who was tap dancing across the bottom of the car a fortnight ago, and he's been banished from his hometown of Goulburn. And what else can you do? There are other players who have changed their lifestyle living in France, living in the north of England. Where would you rather be, on the beach in Sydney or the beach in Brisbane or in the north of England? Their lifestyles have changed because they can't behave.
Is it up to the NRL to solve society's problems? I mean, is the NRL the cause or a victim here?
No, because, my eldest young bloke now tells me what happens at pubs and clubs on a Friday night, and I'm sure there are plenty of parents out there watching this that know exactly what we're talking about. What happens with young footballers is being repeated by lesser-known people every Friday and Saturday night. I mean, we do have a drop in standards in the way people behave, but the simple fact of the matter is we can't worry about the unknown teenagers misbehaving. What we've got to do are worry about people who have a profile and try and educate them to behave themselves better. The NRL... Well, the jury's out. I think they've got to be a bit tougher.
When does a player qualify as a role model? Does immediately signing a rugby league contract make you a role model?
No, but I think that, there's a case in point. A young Roosters player came to the attention of the media this week, and he hasn't got a very big scrapbook, as Jack Gibson would have said. He's not well known, and so he got through the radar. But I think it sort of, the example this week is a player who was the face of the game. I mean, you can't become any more high profile than that. And if the message can't get through to a player, about that, how he behaves in public regarding drinking, let alone anything else that may happen, we have a problem. The role model thing, I'm a bit like you, I've got a problem with that. Who is a role model, who isn't a role model. But I think if you put yourself in the public eye, there'd be a lot of people disturbed that you're a role model or I'm a role model. But unfortunately, we perhaps are.
Well, I get to this point too. Every time we have an incident like this, I start to question myself as a parent. I start to question myself, if I was a coach, how would I handle this? I mean, you would assume that they've been raised by parents or guardians up until their mid-teen years. I mean, isn't this where characters and values are formed?
You'd hope by the time that the NRL's got hold of them that their basic values in life are already formed, and that's from where they came from and where they're heading to. But even, Gus, in the best of organised families, kids go off the rail.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Ray. All right. Last day to Jacqueline.
Oh, look, I just think that it's been such a tumultuous week in the last 7 days, and I just personally can't wait for the football to start tomorrow night. And good luck to Hazem El Masri, because it'd be fantastic to see him break the record.
Well, he might score 2 points or 4. He won't get more than that playing Manly. You know that. And David, I'm sure that after the week you can look forward to the football as well tomorrow night.
Yeah, look, I know it's been disappointing, it's been frustrating, but this is a great competition coming up. Fans of all clubs can be excited. Look across the playing rosters. How's Brett Kamali going to go at the Bulldogs? How's Israel going to go at the Broncos? Trent Barrett's a Shark. Stacey Jones couldn't stay away at the Warriors. There's so much to look forward to in 2009. I hope people can get out and enjoy the footy.
All right. Please thank David Gallop for us. Thanks, Dave. Let's hope next time we see you it's under better circumstances. And also Jacqueline Magnay. It's great to have a lady journalist on with plenty of credibility. Thanks very much, Jacqueline. Once again, please thank you. After this break, the Gladiators here, Russell Crowe. But as we go to the break, I don't know if you've noticed, there's a couple of blokes missing. And it's very, very sad. Laurie Daly's with the show last year. Laurie is a tremendous bloke, a great individual. He had a great time on the show, fitted in nicely. Not sure why he's not here anymore, but he's gone back to Fox to do his commentary. I want to wish you all the best, Laurie. You're a champion guy. Well, we had a great time with you, mate. And a guy who was on our very first ever show in 1995, and he joined the show full time, I think, in the year 2000, and spent 8 or 9 years with us. And the great Paul Harrigan. You know, he's also left the show, and you know we've become great friends. He is a great man. He's salt of the earth. And to not have him down the end of the panel, you know, chuckling away and messing things up, and, you know, that's gold. Chief,
lovely tribute.
we are going to miss you so much, mate. We're already missing you. Chief, here is our tribute to you, champ. Marcel Harrigan, he just did nothing. It's like on the football field, Finnegan, he's the biggest cat I've ever seen play football.
What's going on, pal?
Just saying what a great player he was. Welcome back to the show. Our next guest is one of the co-owners of South Sydney, and a very proud man he is to be that. But he's also one of the greatest actors the world has ever seen. In case you don't know who we're talking about, here's a reminder.
I want people to know that I'm proud of my white history, my white blood. One day might be all I have. Nicotine is associated with impact, satisfaction. Sometimes our expectations are betrayed by the numbers. Variables are impossible to assign any.
You do have a name.
My name is Gladiator.
The great Russell Crowe, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, champ. What's doing, Russ? All good?
Evening, folks. How you doing?
You going well? Spending some time in Australia and in Sydney town before you fly off to the next movie?
Yeah, I've been back home since December, I think. You know, It's been great. Been out in the bush for a little while and just enjoying being in Australia, and that that wonderful smell that happens in Australian summertime with some combination between fish and chips and sand and seawater and everything. I've been just filling up with that because now I've got 6 months of England, which doesn't smell anywhere near like that.
Because you're heading there to play the role of Robin Hood.
Yes.
In the next movie.
Yes, I was going to do Friar Tuck. Then I lost a bit of weight, and then I was going to do Maid Marian, but I lost too much weight, so now I have to be Robin Hood.
Now, Russell, the last... I just want to say that I'm actually a thespian, like yourself, and so is...
I know you're an
Matty.
actor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what I just wanted to say. The last time I sat with you was Australia Day last year. We spent Australia Day last year in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yes, and I proved that it's a great career choice not to be a commentator.
Well, it was a bit of fun, but I just wanted to say...
I'm a little too parochial. You know, when Souths were doing something, I'd actually not be able to complete the sentence. I'd be going... And he'd be just talk. Just talk through it, mate.
Russell, I never had an opportunity, though, at that time to actually give you a copy of the movie that Maddie and I were in, which was Footy Legends. Now, this didn't reach Hollywood. It only had a 3-week run in Australia. But
I actually, because you brought it up so consistently and continuously at the time, I went and checked that movie out.
I was just going to say, would you like that? Could you have that copy as a token?
I know you can find somebody else.
It's cutting edge, Russell.
To have that movie.
Well, it's weekly hire. Can you at least hold it for 7 days?
Thank you, Andy. But what about the other movie you did? The final winter.
Yes, final winner.
Yeah. And you were the coach.
Yes, I was an alcoholic gambler. It was the role I was born to play.
There's a scene in there where you were talking to the player who's just been sent off.
That's it.
And you're in there giving him some shtick,
curry.
You know. I was just wondering where you found the motivation to play that. Is that a conversation that you've had with a coach yourself?
I used to hang around the dressing rooms when my father was the coach of the Cessnock Goannas, and he would make
This
a
is the
wharfie
guy that
blush.
Reg is based on.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
my old man used to say, I don't find Reg Reagan funny. I said, because you are Reg Reagan, Gaz. Hey, Russ, can I ask?
But you were really good in that final winter film, mate. I think there was some nice stylish stuff in that film.
I just want to say, I am available. Seriously.
Let's get
and we know how things are at Channel 9 these days. It's hard lies and truth.
Let's get Russell on the rugby league.
I'm sure if the executives at Channel 9 have really had a look at your work, they could find something for you in Underbelly.
Russell, there was a movie, Trading Places, which was, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Now, I want to do Trading Places with you. David Gallop, we send him off to Hollywood. I don't know what's going to happen there, but anyway, good luck to him. And you become the boss of the National Rugby League. And you are a passionate, lifelong rugby league fan. You're now a co-owner of South Sydney. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about expansion.
This is like one of those Jeffrey Robertson hypotheticals.
You are now the NRL CEO. How many clubs would we have in the competition? How many clubs can the game support? And where would you be playing the game of rugby league? Would there be relocation, more joint ventures? What would you do?
Well, let's just go for a start. Number one, I'm a big supporter personally of David Gallop. I think he has committed a large part of his life to the game, and we should all be really appreciative of that just from a simple point of view. The business model that we're working on at the moment puts us in a situation where we have 16 teams, only one of which regularly posts a profit. The vast majority survive because of leagues clubs and leagues clubs grants. The other day we had a particular CEO coming out saying this year the grant will only be 4 million and not 5 million. What that statement actually means is that they're only prepared this year to have an operating loss in their football department of $4 million. That's a loss. A grant from a league club to a football club, that means their football operations will lose $4 million. And that's something that we have to examine. The teams, the 16 teams that we have now, that makes the game. The Manly Warringahs, the eastern suburbs, the South Sydney, that makes the game. We provide the players for all the highlights of the game, for the state of origin, for tests, Australia versus New Zealand or Australia versus England. And the teams are not actually prioritised. And that's the major change that I would make. I'd come up with a business model that sees all of the teams as part owners, as shareholders in the central core business that runs rugby league. Well, that's the way I'd change.
Russ, you're at the coalface. A lot of us are guessing. We hear things about doom and gloom. Parramatta Leagues Club, almost $8 million loss in the last financial year. Are things as bad as we're hearing, or is it spot on the money?
In the wider economic terms, or in terms of rugby league?
In terms of rugby league.
I think rugby league has never been more popular. I think that's probably provable in terms of viewership figures and just the average conversation with the man on the street in terms of the way they follow the game. Taking that popularity and turning it into an amount of money that actually distributes fairly through the clubs and sees those clubs operating, if not at some huge profit, but at least without having to scratch every year or go into debt to cover themselves. I think that's got to be the priority.
Would you advise other people to take ownership of clubs? I mean, there was an address you sent out to football club members of South Sydney in the off-season. It was fantastic. It was something very novel, straight down the barrel, almost like a Christmas message. But you did say, this is not a threat. No emotion, I can walk away and you have to start supporting your club. Is private ownership the way to go then? Because you've stepped in and you've great show of faith and out of your own pocket.
It's very definitely not for the faint-hearted.
Yes, exactly.
There's a lot more complexities to running a club than you would ever assume from the outside.
But did you ever go in thinking you'd make money?
I didn't go into this to lose money. All right. So
Fair answer.
So there's a difference. Did I think that this will, by doing this will be something for my dotage, and I'll be able to kick back and put my feet up?
By the Millard Caravan of your dreams and go up to the Central Coast.
It does not suit me as a core South Sydney fan and any other core South Sydney fan that we operate a business that doesn't at least pay for itself. I think that's a fundamental part of the makeup of South Sydney people, that they want to see their club operate efficiently, run on the smell of an oily rag, but we've got everything that we need and we've got the right facilities. And year after year we tick over and we make sure that we can actually pay for our
And to
own
that end,
way.
Russell, we should say South Sydney now have the most football club members of any club in the National Rugby League and the most ticketed members.
We've got over 7,700
So the message is getting
season
through.
ticket holders at the moment. And as is the same with every team, if we, but particularly with South Sydney, if we come out of the gates against Eastern Suburbs on Sunday and we show that we mean business, we'll have more than 8,000 by Monday.
Tell us the moment you became a Souths fan.
My dad used to run a multi-fit muffler shop in Botany Road in Beaconsfield. Botany Road's it's not actually there now. There's another development's been built on that site. But I went there just a few months ago actually because I wanted to see how long the walk to the shop was. Because as a kid, I remember when I was 4 or 5 being there, and the walk to the shop took forever. And one day I went down and I bought a bottle of lemonade for Dad and his off-sider, who were working in the muffler shop. And halfway back I dropped it. And I always remember that shopkeeper heard the smash, came out, saw it was me, and gave me another bottle. And I always just, thank God I didn't have to go back and explain to Dad that I dropped the bottle of lemonade,
So they dropped the bottle of lemonade and you became a Souths fan?
No. But that's right in the middle of South territory. True. And everybody in that area was focused on South Sydney. And my dad's off-sider, and I won't say his name because he's a very sort of reticent bloke and shy man, and he'd probably get upset if I did. But that guy, as all good mates do, he just worked on me. My dad's died in the war, St George supporter. My old brother was a St George supporter. And my dad thought, well, I don't have to do the work because it's like DNA and he'll just get that, But his mate got into my ear and just kept pointing out, look at Ron Coote, mate.
Yeah.
Look at Elwyn Walters. Now look at the back line. And, as a little kid, I got influenced by that. So I became a South Sydney supporter in 1969. And that year we lost the grand final against Balmain. And he also gave me another important speech in my life that I always remember. He said that, sometimes you don't win, sometimes you lose, but you don't change your team. You stick with your team through thick and thin, and here I am today with
Souths fan
much
to
poorer
Souths owner, and it's a great story. It's a great dream that you've achieved there. Fantastic. You've got a brand new movie coming out called State of Play. The brand new movie out, State of Play. It stars Russell, Ben Affleck, Rachel McAdams, who's a good little sort, Jason Bateman, Robert Wright Penn, and Helen Mirren. Tell us about this show.
I'll tell you a little story about Helen. You remember Helen played Queen Elizabeth just recently, and got the Oscar for it, actually, So I'm sitting with Helen, and I've known her for a while because I worked with her husband, a guy called Taylor Hackford, at one stage. He directed a movie I did called Proof of Life. He also directed Ray and quite a few other films. And we were sitting there, just a group of actors. Everybody's got their script out and they're talking and all this sort of stuff, And Helen's got these little imperious glasses on. And she goes, Russell, you'd know. What is the phrase? Is it lamb dagger or is it pork sword? And I actually found myself saying, it's pork sword, Mum. So, State of Play is about this friendship between a politician and a journalist that stretches back to their university days, and a certain situation arrives, and the ethics of the journalist are tested because he's faced with either supporting his friend or selling newspapers. So,
it's a political thriller.
It is a political thriller, and it's getting some great responses in America. It's fantastic. It's a great cast to work with, and as you say, I totally agree with you. Rachel McAdams is definitely a good source.
And announced today that the movie is now a sleeve sponsor of South Sydney for the first 11 rounds. More income for the Rabbitohs.
Yes, we've done very well with our sponsorship this year. We have our main home sponsor is the National Australia Bank, NAB. And DeLonghi, who make fantastic coffee machines, if you guys are into coffee. They're also a major sponsor, and of course our connection with Virgin Blue. And now we have Universal Pictures stepping forward and becoming a major sponsor. Actually, I've got a list of our major sponsors here. It's just a short one.
Go for it.
It's just because
we're
having quite a bit of luck
What we do
with
have,
it.
Russell, is the home and away strip. This year, the Black Bunny will be the home strip with the giant NAB. And the sponsorship that is generated by the Rabbitohs this year is just enormous, as I say, on the back of all the ticketed members. And Matty's got what will be the away strip this year for Rabbitohs fans.
It is.
Will be the White Rabbit.
And I can reveal after round 11, the sleeve sponsor won't be State of Play, to be Footy Legends, believe it or not.
Yes, Footy
Absolutely.
Legends.
There it is there, Russ.
Weekly hire at Video Easy.
So
$1.30. It's $1.50 well
apart
spent.
from the guys on the jersey, we've got obviously the famous one is Giorgio Armani. We've got Gatorade, we've got Casella Wine, Schweppes, ISC, Tui's, South Juniors, Bunny
Bet's on board, yeah.
Coffs Harbour City Council,
All right.
BBX.
Nice.
The
All right,
list is very
Let's talk
long.
some footy. I know you're a big footy fan. Our match of the round tomorrow night, you'll see it live in Queensland, is Brisbane taking on the North Queensland Cowboys.
Tomorrow night, it's the Queensland Derby, the Broncos and the Cowboys. This showdown features the two most powerful guns in the competition.
Darren Lockyer has left his mark on yet another blockbuster.
Rugby league royalty, but on a night where only one can be king. Both teams guided by new coaches with high expectations. And the Cowboys have a little master ready to burst back into the NRL. For the Broncos, their hopes this year rest with a much bigger hombre.
Falau shows us his strength. Have a look at that.
This ain't some B-grade spaghetti western. It's the Broncos and the Cowboys. Friday night football, and only on 9.
That's the so-called local derby up there in Queensland. The Broncos are favourites, easing favourites, and you know what? I've tipped the Cowboys. I think they're going to have a great year, the Cowboys. Brand new coach, got some good new players like Antonio Cafisi. Big news, though, that Matt Bowen's back and he's fit.
Absolutely. Matty Bowen, just a handful of games last year. I mean, it is impossible that the Cowboys could have a season like last year. They won only 5 games, equal last with the Bulldogs. Bulldogs got the wooden spoon, obviously, on 4 and against. But it is a Broncos home game. The last couple of times these clubs have clashed at Suncorp, we've had over 50,000 fans there. I mean, it's a massive injection. But tomorrow night, it's an amazing Brisbane lineup. Because if I can quote from you from 1995, the Origin series, some Neville nobodies there, really. In a Broncos backline that has Lockyer, that has Hunt, that has Falau, are names
Hodges,
Antonio Winterstein, Alex Glenn and Jarrell Yao-Yi. Now, they will all be on debut. What a thrill for these 20-year-olds who this time last year were aiming up for their first match in the Toyota Cup. This is Jarrell Yao-Yi, who scored 27 tries last year in 26 games. He is a speedster. He has great bloodlines in rugby league. His great uncle, a former star with the Tigers back in the 60s. But I'm excited for him. I spoke to him today and he sounded excited. Friday night football, it's a big deal. But he's playing outside Israel Folau. And also, Antonio Winterstein was a youngster at the Roosters last year, under 20s also. And Alex Glenn's a very impressive young bloke who only came across to Australia as a 15-year-old from New Zealand, went to high school on the Gold Coast. I think Miami High was the school. Has captained the under-20 side. This is one of the exciting aspects. When you talk about the positives, new blood, you're going to see it this weekend right across the board. Rabbitohs have got a few new blokes, but the Broncos have got 3 in a star-studded lineup. It's an exciting time.
Russ, you done your form?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cowboys because I have a great deal of respect for Neil Henry.
Yeah.
I think what he did at the Raiders was next to spectacular, and I'm sure that he's going to carry on that same kind of work ethic with those boys up there. And as you're saying, you know, between the big names they have in the forward pack and their halves, the Cowboys really underperformed last year, and they won't do that again a second year in a row.
All right, the other big game of the weekend is on Sunday, the Roosters and the Rabbitohs. Roosters firming favourites, and the Rabbitohs just not rank outsiders, but they're the outsiders, and I like the Rabbitohs. I like your team. I thought you finished the season well last year. You won plenty of your last 7 or 8 and played some great football. I don't think the Roosters, I know you can't count trial form, but the Roosters have not done a lot in the trials.
The thing is, though, when you're facing a Brad Fittler turned out East side, you know you're going to have a side that's really up for it and ready to go. He's proven that in the last couple of years. I know he's only been in the game a short time, but the way they do little things, you know, the way they get together on their kickoff and get down the field, you know, kick chases, they really are very well disciplined, and they have a big forward pack, and they have some very sharp backs, and they can't be underestimated.
Tell me why will Souths, you watched Souths all last year, why will they be better than last year?
I think Souths will be better because the preparation has been smoother. Last year we did a thing where we took everybody over to Jacksonville, and even though I think they came back with a head of steam from Jacksonville, I think beating the Sharks 44-0 in one of the trials was an indicator of that. There was a lot of extra adrenaline burnt out, and I think we were taught a lesson again by Eastern Suburbs, which we've regularly been done, that you've got to be really ready to go to war when it's round one. And hopefully this year we are going to be ready for that.
I tell you, I've been impressed with in the trials, Russell, and it's John Sutton. You know, he's been a kid, he's got so much skill, but waiting to fulfil his abilities, it's been a while, but he's been terrific in the trial
Well, you've been
game.
seeing a young boy playing against men, and now he's 24. He's actually going into those years where he is the man, you know, and hopefully not only just John, but a lot of guys in the team, you know, are in that situation where they're going to stand up.
And Russ, Isaac Luke, you know, it's all a bit cloak and dagger. There's talk that he may start off the bench or in the starting lineup.
I think that he's been listed as in the starting lineup.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
starting like this week, Craig Wing's comeback's just been delayed from a bit of off-season surgery. A couple of things to point out about this is the Rabbitohs, and we just saw a clip of the Charity Shield. The Rabbitohs defence, if that's an indicator, then I think you're going to recapture the form of 2007. Goal line defence was outstanding on that night, I thought, and really nullified the Dragons. There's a redhead in the centres that, Fatty, you've got to be aware of, and this is the Channel 9 match on Sunday. Sean Corrigan.
You cannot have a decent
debut.
rugby league team without at least one redhead.
So
absolutely.
We've got a redhead on debut. And can I also mention, and I won't let you do the rap for the Roosters, but I will rap the Roosters, that on Sunday, after the game, kids allowed on the ground after the match at the Sydney Football Stadium, which other clubs have done. We've done it before. I think it's a good start to the year. So well done, Roosters.
Well, and lastly, just on the trials too, Anthony Minicello back for the Roosters. His trial form has been spectacular. Very, very good.
I'll
Good to
tell
see
you
him
what we've got here on the show tonight, Matt, as our butt in. We've got a world exclusive, the State of Origin, which is the greatest competition that any footballer will ever play. It kicks off again in Melbourne, the first game down there. And here is the brand new world exclusive State of Origin ad. And a great choice to take the first game down to Melbourne. It is one of Queensland's home games, but you know, Melbourne really is the sporting capital of Australia. Everything that goes down there works, and if you want tickets for the Origin game, they're tickettech.com.au. Origin tickets now on sale, and it is the best football you'll ever watch. You must enjoy the Origin, Russ.
Yes, I do. I actually think that, you know, what you just said before is quite something to start thinking about. It is the highest level of the game as we see it. So back to what you were talking about before in terms of if I was the CEO of the NRL.
You still are. You've got the job for a month.
That, you know, I would have a look at how we place State of Origin, because at the moment we have this false peak. Now, if we were doing a theatrical production and we had our biggest number in the middle of the show, most people would be gone before the curtain closed. And that's something to think about. Building to the State of Origin, so there's nothing else in the way of the State of Origin, and we don't artificially weaken the stronger teams during the middle of the season to bring everybody back to the pack. That's something to really think about. You know, and also you artificially weaken on both ways, because you have something like Melbourne, they've got 9 guys out playing Origin. So obviously
even more lucky,
you know,
at different points.
11.
And we saw that they weren't competitive for a few games.
So
right?
you're saying, Mr. Crow, as NRL boss, that we are playing Origin in October? Is it 2 weeks after the grand final? What are you saying?
Yeah,
over
this
a
is what
3-week
I'd like to
period,
see.
or
I'd like to
what would
see
happen?
the season complete. I'd like to see Origin